removal of an elected county official in Council Bluffs yesterday raised questions on how a local political office can be filled and who should make the decision. 19 states leave that up to voters through a recall process followed by a public vote. Nebraska is included on that list, but Iowa is not. First Alert 6's Roger Hamer dives deeper into the process that each state has when it comes to removing someone from office and then filling their position.
Pottawattamie County Supervisor Scott Belt removed from office Thursday for being intoxicated while conducting official county business at a recent town hall meeting. But were efforts to out Belt politically motivated?
The defense in this case has raised the specter of such political motivations. However, on a review of the evidence, the court finds that remains nothing more than a specter and is devoid of any proof in these proceedings.
In Iowa, voters don't have the opportunity to recall political officials. Local political officials are removed through the courts. The case against Belt was filed by Pottawattamie County Attorney Matt Wilbur. Judge Roger Saylor made his decision based on the evidence presented in court. But voters in Iowa didn't get to vote on Belt's ousting or his immediate replacement.
The Iowa Code requires it's a committee of the county treasurer, the county auditor, and the county recorder. So they've got 40 days to fill that spot.
A recent recall effort in Valley, Nebraska highlights the difference between the two states on how removing someone from political office is handled. In Valley, a recall petition was filed, authorized, and put before voters who made the decision. The mayor and city council president were removed from office. But not all political positions are subject to a recall vote. Constitutional level officers, governors, senators, members of Congress, for example, are exempt from recall in all 50 states. In Nebraska, members of the state legislature, judges, and statewide office holders are also exempt from recall. Most lower-level elected positions can be recalled. For example, in Douglas County, city council members, mayors, and school board personnel are subject to recall petitions. Those petitions can be filed by a single person citing reasons for the recall, signed by registered voters. Usually 35% of the number of total votes cast in the most recent election must be verified. A simple majority decides the issue. Any change in Iowa hinges on a change in legislation.
Well, I think it would take the people probably forming a petition and making a special campaign for it to happen.
Senate Joint Resolution 4 calling for a recall process in Iowa was proposed last year but has not moved forward. Matt Wilbur isn't against the idea.
I would be more than happy to have this process go to the voters and have my office not involved and have the courts not involved.
Belt's attorney, Brett Ryan, says removing someone from an elected position is not something judges want to do.
Trust me, judges don't advocate for legislation from the bench. I'm sure he would agree. He's not going to sit on the bench and say, legislators change this law. That's just not going to happen.
Wilbur says he hopes the healing process can take place in Pottawattamie County as potential replacements vie for the position of county supervisor.
They're going to have to fill a spot. I'm sure that'll be some controversy as well as that process goes on.
Voters will have to wait until the end of 2026 to elect a replacement. I'm Roger Hamer, First Alert 6.
In Nebraska, 13 people have been removed from office through the recall process this year alone. In Iowa, only Belt and a judicial magistrate have been removed through the court proceedings this year. Valley voters will decide their next mayor and city council person on January 13th.